This episode of The Prod is brought to you by Station Square Restaurant, Modern Methods Brewery, Salvatore's Italian Grill, Green Life Holdings, and Brokers Realty. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the Prodcast. We're coming to you live from Two Ticks and the Dog Productions up above Dave Grohl Alley in beautiful downtown Warren, Ohio. I say live. I guess we're not really technically live, but we're alive today. We're going to have a live show with guest musician, first one of season 4 to come on the show this season, my good friend, I like to call him the blue collar bluesman, Warren's blue collar bluesman. He is a working musician, has been for 20 plus years. Mr. Damian Knapp, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you bringing the guitar. And what do you got set up over there? You got a guitar and an amp. You're gonna play some tunes for us today.
Yeah, we can noodle around a little bit. I just have a little Fender Bronco and my G&L Blues Boy guitar.
Yeah, so that's a hollow body
telly type.
Yeah,
it's got a humbucker in the neck, and then it's got the single coil in the bridge. You get the best of both worlds.
That's pretty cool, and it's cool looking. It's like a powder blue for those of you who are not watching on video and you're listening. It's a good looking guitar. You said when we walked in, we're setting up, if I was on a deserted island, this is the guitar I would take with me.
Yeah, probably. If I had to take one on the road and can only take one guitar on the road, it'd be this one.
Wait, but if you're on the deserted island with no electricity,
I'd probably need my metal body. Yeah, I'd want that one, my resonator.
What deserted island would you want to be on? Like a Caribbean, kind of in the? Are you more of a Caribbean guy?
I love the ocean. I do. I love the ocean, and that's what I need: a white sandy beach, and I'd like to do that soon. Get back to the ocean.
You get some nice sandy beaches up around. You're playing a lot Geneva on the lake. So do you get to kind of trudge off after your shows and check out
all
Lake
the time.
Erie? Yeah.
Before I have spots, I'll just go and sit and look at the water and for a while, and then calm before the storm, and then go play for 4 hours on the Strip and loud and people screaming, and it can get pretty crazy up there.
Well, you've been playing for 25, 30 plus years.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're close to the same age, so it reminds me the same thing when we were.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. Yeah, too long. I don't know. Right.
How did you get started in music, and how has it evolved?
Well, both of my parents were both music aficionados in different way. Like my mom loved the Beatles and Stevie Wonder, Jeff Beck. I listened to those records, and she reminds me, when I was like 3, 4, she said, Jeff Beck, I was glued to it. One of my first baby pictures, and I have it. She said it's this guitar onesie with guitars all over it, and she said I cried and wanted to wear that onesie. That's true. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. But yeah, my dad was a musician, of course, so with him it was like Tom Waits and Miles Davis and Bruce Springsteen and jazz. So between the two of them, I had a good upbringing with music.
Your dad, Pete Knapp, what was his instrument of choice? What
trumpet.
Did he play? Okay.
Trumpet, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was a trumpet player. He used to say I was one of the first rock and roll trumpet players.
Recently, you would take some of his recordings and some of his music and songs, right? And you put it down on your own album.
Yeah, I'd like to, solidify what's going on with that. I'm going to release it for the final time, I swear this, because I've released it a few different times in different names and different groups of songs. But I'm going to release the one final version of it. Will be on October 16th of this year.
Oh, cool.
That's 20 years since my dad passed away to the day.
Wow.
I'm going to release the album on the last time I had to take it down. It's not available anywhere right now because, unfortunately, CD Baby is who it was through, or whoever, they put my album in the Christian category.
Oh.
Because there's some spiritual elements. Maybe the computer picked it up, or who knows now, right?
Sure.
But it's not, of course. But there are spiritual themes. So maybe that's why they did. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again, because that'll kill the album before anyone hears a note.
Yeah.
I know if I don't particularly listen to that kind of music, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't particularly like it. So when I see it come by, I don't even listen to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody to do that to that album.
Right.
It's too important to
Well,
me.
you got a lot of meaning behind it, sure.
Yeah, I'm real excited about that. And then I do all my recording at Mike Talanka's.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Mike at Toontown in Newton Falls, one of the best out there.
The best. And I love that guy. He's changed the trajectory of my recording discography, in that we went and we redid all the Machine Gun Mary stuff.
Oh, yeah?
We kept the drums and the bass, but and some of the guitar. I re-sang everything.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and harmonies too.
Well, let's. I definitely want to talk about Mike.
Got a lot of original stuff that I have in the can that I haven't really released yet, but I plan on doing that very soon.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Especially Machine Gun Mary. For listeners out there that are not from the 330 area code, Damian has gone through an amalgamation of different music, where Fester Presley was one of your first. Yeah, it was one of your first bands, and then you went to Machine Gun Mary, which was a different sound and a different stage presence, and you've evolved into really like a blues, dare I say, master. You're on the road. You go to Memphis. You go to these different blues competitions in Columbus and whatnot, and you've done really well. Tell the people listening what that experience has been like, and how you got into doing that kind of stuff.
Well, the blues thing, the Blues Challenge thing, of course, the music is not a competition at all. That's one of the things I don't like about it, but I've been participating in them for close to, first one was in 2005.
But you're going to competitions, right? They're
regional.
Yeah, okay.
And they've done me a lot of good, and they get you to focus, and it's all original music. So it gets you to maybe come up with a new tune. If you have something coming up, it forces you to do it. And it's done me a lot of good, as far as I was runner-up in Cleveland one year. The 1 year I did Cleveland. I won Columbus twice. Now I just won Pittsburgh last year. And I've participated at the one in Canton, the Neoba. I've participated in theirs a few times. And I don't even think I ever placed in theirs up there. I usually place. I was runner-up in Marietta 1 year. There was probably 500 people there, and that's $500 for the runner-up.
Holy smoke, man!
That was just in 19 before COVID.
Okay,
yeah, that was in 19. Yeah, I went down there and was runner-up for that, and so it's exposed me to a lot of blues people in our region. 3, 4, 5 hours from here, they know who I am in that particular crowd. So that, and the Blues Challenge is usually the biggest event of the year for a blues society. A blues society has to put on a Blues Challenge, and they have to be sanctioned and legal, and a legal entity. And they have a Blues Challenge, and whoever wins gets to go to Memphis. But you have to win regionally first to even get there. It's real hard to get there, because I'm always an outsider.
Yeah.
I get runner-up a lot, which is cool with me, but I mean, it's I don't know if I'm going to go back to Memphis, though.
No?
To that. I say I'm not, and then I do. I just think it's real easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
There's just we had 10 acts in my venue a few months ago, and there was literally less than 5 minutes in between. And it just, it's getting like that. It's getting a little bit, it's just, there's just so much of it, and everyone's walking around with a CD, and
oversaturated.
Oh, geez. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, how did you go? How did you start? Your dad Pete. When he was playing trumpet? You say he's the first. Rock. He claimed the first. Was the influence for blues from that? Did you go listen to Pete a lot? Your dad a lot.
No, I never got to see him play live. By the time I was old enough to know anything, he was done.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his career was probably strongest from 66 to 77.
Okay.
That was his active years.
Okay. And you were just a little kid at that point.
I was like 2 when he was pretty much done playing.
Born in
live.
74?
75.
We're the same. Yeah, same year. I didn't know that.
But the blues thing. My mom. I was living with my mom and my sister, my older sister Mary, who's a great singer. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh
no.
my God! Well, she's the naturally talented sibling, not me. I had to work really hard. She was really good from birth.
You can't tell by listening, though.
Well, she was really good from birth, though. She could sing as a kid. She was on some commercials, actually.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then all through high school, and grew up watching that, too. The Magical Singers at Harding and all that. And theater and all that with her. So I grew up going to see her plays. That was good, inspiring.
How many years older is Mary than you?
3.
Okay.
Lenten time or anytime, Station Square Seafood is delivered daily and always prepared fresh every time. And now to go with your salmon, swordfish, or any favorite dish, Station Square's small batch signature seasonings. Lemon pepper, Cajun, or charcoal steak rub. Award-winning beer with live weekly entertainment. Modern Methods Brewery, downtown Warren, 8 Grohl Alley. Check taproom hours at modernmethodsbrew.com and come thirsty.
So, but the blues thing, getting back to that, was I was living with my mom and my older sister and my stepfather at the time, and the neighbor was blasting out some blues from his garage, and we're still friends to this day. And I went over there, and he kind of hipped me to John Lee Hooker, George Thorogood. His name's John Piscini.
Okay.
Great guy. He works at the water department, I believe.
Okay.
And we listened to Elvin Bishop. He had Johnny Winter.
Yeah.
And he's the one who told me, go to the mall and buy the Allman Brothers Live at Fillmore East. I repeat, Live at Fillmore East. So I went and bought it, and I took it home, and I'll never forget the first time I put it in the tape recorder, because you hear they go, okay, the Allman Brothers Band, da-da-da-da-da, into Statesboro Blues, and it's like, wow, that shook my world, hearing that for the first time. I've been trying to play it ever since.
How old were you at that point?
Like 12.
Okay.
I've been playing Statesboro Blues. That's one of the songs I've played through all the bands except Machine Gun Mary my whole career. That's just been a staple, like something to achieve to, or I don't know what the word is, something to adhere to.
Sure. Tell us a little bit about Machine Gun Mary. That was kind of like a different direction, right? Not a fork in the road, but kind of a different direction than traditional blues.
The truth is now that I'm older, I realize what a golden opportunity that was, and I really regret not taking better care of it and continuing on doing it, because there was a video sent to me of us when we were in our heyday. It was probably like 2000, 2001, and the crowd was loud, packed. And it was, I swear it's a true story, I could only watch it for about 5 minutes. I haven't watched it. It was really good, and I was young, and I just thought, wow, that I should have done. And we were pre the Black Keys, and we were doing that similar kind of, it was like garage, rockabilly, surf, punk, blues.
Yeah.
And it
had a real edge to it.
Yeah, man, and it was good, and it was a lot. But a sad thing is, I tell young people today, don't listen to the naysayers. They don't really care about you, and half of them are jealous anyway.
A lot of jealousy
around here. There was a lot of knock on that for its different. And looking back, they were wrong.
Yeah,
totally. Because now I look back, the White Stripes. I was not listening, of course. The Black Keys hadn't played a gig yet, and I wasn't listening to the White Stripes or anything like that. I came by naturally from loving the Sex Pistols and the Dead Boys.
Yeah. And
then loving the Delta Blues and fusing all that stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of energy. Correct me if I'm wrong, because, there's a lot of drinking in those days and going around different places. Was there a blow-up doll? Didn't you have like a blow-up doll on stage?
We had one. Yeah, that's right. We had a song, $5,000 porno Barbie doll. So we'd bring it out. Yeah, it was wild, man. One time the cable guy came over and saw it. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm in a band. Like, that's not hanging out in my living room, man.
She thought that was your girlfriend at the time.
No, dude, I'm in a band and we bring it out. It's a prop. But yeah, I mean, it was edgy, and it was, we even took a cue from like the G.G. Allen or,
I'm not familiar.
Oh yeah. Like he's one of the most hardcore punk guys of all time.
Yeah. It was one of those bands. It was hard to kind of define, but it was like, there's a lot of energy and it's a lot of, like punk fits it a little bit, but it was more than that. Like you said, it was kind of a fusion of different sounds. That was you got a lot of attention at that.
It was the complete opposite of Fester Presley in that it was not a revolving musical chairs. I had the same bass player and drummer, and we were a band.
Yeah, who were those guys?
And we rehearsed. Jonas Hartzell, he's in South Carolina.
Okay.
And the bass player Hip Jones, he's still out in Kinsman.
Right on.
And I tried to do a reunion show once. I was the only member, though. I mean, I tried to do one. I had Larry Infant on drums.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and a true story. It was the worst rainstorm that I can remember the last 10 years. I mean, the rain was torrential, biblical downpours. And then my amp didn't work. Everything went wrong. The club owner didn't like it. It was like a complete disaster. So I haven't done one of those since. Like I said, that was a time we didn't play around here. So it doesn't, the gig that I'm talking about was in town. That's not the place for it.
Yeah.
We played a lot in Kent.
Yeah.
And in the underground of Cleveland, Akron, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cedars. We did Nyabingi.
Yep.
All Youngstown. Yeah. And
that
it was a complete opposite of Fester Presley in that the bars Machine Gun Mary played, Fester Presley could never play in, and the bars Fester Presley played in, Machine Gun Mary could never play there.
Well, that's probably like the beginning of your diversity. We were talking about this too.
And songwriting too.
Yeah. Because now you really, like you were saying, you've been playing 25 plus years. You professionally, that's your job. And you're saying you can play like you got 1,000 songs from, Maroon 5 to Robert Johnson to, you name it. And
that's the goal.
Yeah.
To be able to, I play a lot of Geneva on the Lake and Resort Town, and you have to be able to accommodate the crowds as they come in. You'll get a group of young people. You'll get maybe the older crowd early, and then you'll get a flood of young people coming in wanting to dance, or they're at a bachelorette party or a bachelor party or something. They want to have fun, and it's time to bust out the disco jams. Yeah. I dig it. I play modally over it. Like imagine the solo Light My Fire over Chic.
Oh yeah,
The Freak or something. I do.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a jam band called Disco Biscuits that was doing that? It's like a hippie band, but they grooved. Anyway, I'm just saying, I have gigs where I play nothing but honky tonk, where I'll play country for 3 hours. The people there would never know that I wasn't a country singer.
Yeah.
But I'll do it. I dig country music as a side corner of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I have gigs like this Friday at Harpersfield Winery. In Harpersfield, I'm doing my 20th Century Master Show, which is a solo show, but I trace the lineage of American music from, say, Scott Joplin in 1899 to Elvis at Sun Records in 54, Chuck Berry.
Okay.
There goes my phone.
Someone's calling you for a gig right now,
No,
man.
I doubt it. It's probably a bill collector. But, it's always a challenge, but it's a good challenge, and it's something I enjoy, is to be able to entertain any crowd, anywhere, of any age, of any style that they like. I grew up on 80s pop.
Yeah.
I dig that stuff.
You wouldn't have played that in the 90s, though,
Not
right?
at all.
Yeah.
None of it. No, I didn't play any of it, which
Right.
is cool because it's new for me.
Yeah.
I never played popular music. Growing up, I played blues and jam and Yeah, I did. So, geez, it's fun for me. I'd never played AC/DC before. I never played Joe Walsh, even though I dug those guys. I didn't grow up playing it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. I enjoy it all. I enjoy 80s pop. I enjoy alternative. I love playing 90s. I dig it. I love Alice in Chains is probably my favorite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
They were
them
good.
a lot.
They are good, but they were good back in that whole grunge scene when that thing came out. You know, they were a standout. They seemed like a little edgier, a little harder than like a Pearl Jam or like I love Soundgarden. I love both. I love all those bands, but yeah, Alice in Chains was kind of,
especially the singer who died. Was it Lane?
Yeah.
State, was that him?
Yeah.
That guy was deep.
Yeah.
Real deep. They said he just sat in there was a restaurant that was by where he was living. He was living in a hotel. And he would just go in there and nod off in the corner every day for like 5 or 6 hours in the back.
Yeah.
Something happened and he just short-circuited, but that guy was deep. I love his stuff. Love his singing.
Not a good lifestyle. You know, that I think sometimes like even like maybe like a Kurt Cobain or as artists, I think sometimes we start digging down in that rabbit hole and we don't know when to kind of come back up for air. We just keep going, you know, and sometimes you don't get out the other side. There is no other side. Sometimes you got to turn around and head back out.
Well, everybody who knows me knows that I'm very anti-drugs. The cocaine, the heroin, the pills, all that stuff is nothing but garbage, and it's a shame. It's the crime of the century on our generation, what has gone on, and, with the opioid epidemic and everything. Everybody who knows me knows that I tell people, hey, I have sugar, right? So I might die from that someday, but you're never going to hear Damian Knapp like die in a bathtub in a hotel from a drug overdose. It's not going to happen.
Good.
Because I don't do any of that. You know, I don't participate in any of it, and people know that because I've almost punched people in the face who would ever come up to me and even mention it. You might get punched in the face. I mean, I don't,
Well, there was a time you were a boxer, too, so you didn't want to get punched in the face by Damian.
I wasn't any good, though. That's why I got out of it.
I thought you were decent.
No, hell no.
You won a couple fights, though.
No, I don't know. I got out of it because I realized if you don't have that killer instinct and you can't knock somebody out with a punch that you have, just get out.
Yeah. Because
you'll get killed.
Well, the longevity is limited, right? Ray Mancini would say, after 30, a man's not made for war. A man's not made to fight anymore, and that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And certainly after 40, you can't do it, but you can still play the guitar. Until you're 100.
I played football at Warren Harding too when we won the state championship in '90. I was a sophomore, and I did that for 3 years. Although I remember most of the time I'd rather be home playing the guitar. But you grew up in Warren though. You grew up, my mom really liked the football at Harding, so she went there, and she took me to games when I was a kid. So you grow up in Warren, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
But by high school, I was already more into the guitar. So.
What was your first gig when you first, started playing, and then when did you first, play out?
I'd say officially, I'd have to say that it was at the Fiesta on Thursdays, John Carusis. I had some friends that knew John and his brothers, Danny, and they gave me my first real opportunity every week, and I just paid the band. I paid the drummer and the bass player $50. This is like 1996 or 95.
Okay.
I just paid the band, and then I'd go to work midnights at Packard because I worked there from 94 to 06.
Okay.
So then I'd go work midnights, man. The gig was like 8 to 10, and then I'd go to work.
Jeez, oh man!
And then I'd get off in the morning and I'd go get the gear,
pick it up from the
bar because they were open in the morning because the midnight turn shifts. People were in there drinking 6 a.m.
Yeah, remember that? You don't see that a lot anymore.
God, no.
Yeah.
No. So from there, then there really wasn't much going on in Warren for live music at all when I started that.
Yeah.
And then I heard the Horseshoe was opening back up. So and I knew somebody who knew Steve. So he hooked me up with that, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Shout out to Steve Lardis, former owner of the Horseshoe Bar on Market and Pine. Still there. They've got new ownership. But at the time, in the late 90s, there was really, and we talked about this on the phone yesterday, there was really a resurgence of what I would say, and it's probably for us. I think if you ask our parents or like their parents, they'd say, oh, we had more, music at that time. But during that 2000, late 90s, early 2000s, there was a lot of acts playing. You could go out Thursday through Sunday night and hit 5 different clubs just in the city of Warren and see live music. You could see Damian Knapp, you could see Gary Perrone, you could see Gary Lee and the Cat Daddies, or you could see
Good Brother
Jim
Earl.
Golan, Good Brother Earl, Frank
Paul
Castellano, Paul Rader.
It was.
Jeez, I forgot. Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people, man.
Yeah.
A lot of talent. A lot of talent, and it was. The Horseshoe was really, I'd say, the epicenter.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Of it, and it was a dive.
Yeah.
And all this was pre-gentrification. There was no Robbins Theater.
Right.
And the old hotels, like the old Warner, it was still standing.
Yep.
And that was cool. Like coming to downtown, you see all these dilapidated,
kind of
burned
seedy.
out. Oh,
Sure,
absolutely
sure.
seedy.
Yeah.
You had all the different kinds of clubs downtown, a private club.
Oh,
weird,
yeah. Yeah.
It was totally different, and it was. The Central Cafe too. Jimmy Tamburis.
Yeah.
He also
Yep.
helped me out when I was first starting. Jimmy did. They booked me at the Central.
Yeah, that was a cool place.
It was real cool. I
Yep.
love playing the Central.
Yeah, I liked seeing you there. I liked seeing a lot of guys there. I liked going to the Fiesta, which then became the Powerhouse. Saw some good acts, come through there.
When I was a teenager, I used to go because I was like a bigger kid, and back then it wasn't that big of a deal, and that's where I used to go see bands.
Yeah.
I'd go to the Central and see like the Azure Daddies. They were a blues band I loved around here. Or Carmen Horvath. He had a band called Little Wing where they did a lot of Hendrix and funk, and it was just amazing. Scott Grable. I used to go see those guys when I was a teenager.
Well, then you'd see guys that were playing originals and covers, and then you'd have kind of like what I'd say more like commercialized cover bands with, you mentioned Disco Explosion.
Yeah.
Right? And you'd see those guys, and that'd be like...
They'd maybe be out to Hacienda.
Yeah, and you'd go like party out there, and then you could come in town and see, Jim Golan, so many different guys.
All this is pre-cell phone, really, and pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-all that. And it's like another great paradox. Now, perhaps there are more people who have heard my music and know who I am than ever before because of social media, but yet the crowds are not, the people going to shows is nowhere near what it was. And that's partly why you don't see that kind of music culture around here right now.
Yeah.
There's not enough butts in the seats.
Right. And I don't, like we were saying, like, people rather stay on the couch kind of, atmosphere where it's like, oh, I can watch it on my phone or see it on. And you were saying, I asked you earlier, like, hey, is it COVID that did that? And you were saying, well, it was kind of trending that way beforehand, and that really sealed the deal. But I feel like since then, since we're kind of we've emerged from the cocoon and we're still kind of spreading our wings a little bit, I feel like there's a resurgence, and it's interesting to see, like, looking at I follow your social media page, and you've got so many dates booked through the summer, and I'll see other guys too, and it's like you're one of the guys that's still, I mean, I know Good Brother's still playing in Pittsburgh and they're coming out with a new album, but you're one of these guys that like saw the kind of the beginning and the end of that live music scene explosion in kind of Northeast Ohio, Youngstown, Warren, Columbia, Sharon, Hermitage, and then it kind of went away, and now I feel like it's coming back a little bit where you're still out there, grinding and doing it, and you've got guys like a couple people we had on the show, like J.D. Iker and the Vindies and Black Wolf and the Thief, and like they're kind of new. I know they've been around 4, 5, 6 years. They're like emerging, and there seems to be a little bit of that feel again
Well, what's good about Northeast Ohio still is it's an older population of people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are a lot of venues right now that are booking live music, and that's a good it's a lot of solos. Mm-hmm. And the budget's not real big.
They're not big, yeah.
So if you're going to do a band, it better be a trio. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, unless you're not worried about it. But most of my gigs are solo with jam tracks. So I can play solo acoustic to start, maybe if people are eating dinner or the bar crowd is starting to change from dinner crowd to late night. And then the second set, bring on the jam tracks, and I can play lead guitar. Like I could play, everything from Stevie Ray Vaughan to the Beatles and the Stones and all that. And all the music we talked about, I have all it on jam tracks too. Mm-hmm. So, and I can accommodate any crowd. That's why I'm working so much. If I wasn't wearing a different hat, seems like I'm wearing a different hat at every gig.
Yeah.
This Friday at Harpersfield, like I said, I'm doing a 20th Century Master show. Then I'm going to hike it to Warren, play Cracker Jacks from 9 to 1.
Nice.
And I'm going to play, the fun. We're going to dance. We're going to rock out. We're going to take requests.
Yeah.
I love honoring requests. And I usually can't anymore.
That's cool.
You just learn the tunes. I mean, there's like 40 or 50 tunes that people request continuously. And
you want to play one now just to throw it out there?
Not really. No.
You don't want to
only at work.
Yeah. You don't want to do a request.
I'll play you something though.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hear something.
Need great food fast? Visit mysalvatores.com and order anything on our menu for a quick pickup. All of your favorites ready when you are. Specials available on mysalvatores.com.
Want to be debt-free faster, save money in taxes and insurance, and retire with more wealth? Call Zach Byler at Green Life Holdings today for full-service financial advisory. 330-219-5225. If you're looking to buy new or sell your current home or commercial property in Northeast Ohio or Northwestern Pennsylvania, look no further than Brokers Realty at brokerssold.com.
Listen, if folks are done sing your song, don't get mad, I don't mean you no harm. I'm gonna play with your poodle. Wanna play with your poodle. I wanna play with your poodle. I mean your pillow poodle dog. Your poodle got long black shaggy hair, got a face like a teddy bear. I wanna play with your poodle. I wanna play with your poodle. I wanna play with your poodle. I mean your little poodle dog.
You think that song is really about your poodle, man?
That's old Lightning Hopkins tune.
I love that tune,
Texas
man.
blues, yeah.
I had to put my shades on because your shine was coming off so bright, man. Your shine was coming off so bright.
That's what I did. Jimmy Vaughn was at the Robbins Theater last October, and I went and parked outside the van with my portable Bose PA and just started playing. And he came over. We hung out for like a half hour.
Oh, that's cool, like before the show.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I started playing one of his tunes. As he was walking, I saw him walking in the bus. I started playing one of his tunes. And then he come over. We just talked like Texas blues, and I played him some Texas. I showed him, my some of my historical Texas blues stuff, from way, way back.
Wow.
He probably doesn't hear that all the time. Like maybe Blind Lemon Jefferson is very Dallas, Texas, from pretty much the same neighborhood, Devon Brothers, So I did like a... Sitting here wondering, will a matchbox hold my clothes? I'm sitting here wondering, will a matchbox hold my clothes? I ain't got got so many matches, but I got so far to go. I can't count the times I stole away and cried. Can't count the times I stole away, run and cried. Mama, the blues ain't on me, but things ain't going down right. If you got a woman, better pin her to your side. If you got a woman, better pin her to your side. 'Cause if she flags my train, Papa Lemon's gonna let her ride.
You know, I was saying this before we got started. Just listening to you when I was walking in and out, and obviously you've been playing a long time, but your voice has matured so much. It sounds really good with what you're doing, and your playing has, like, you were just noodling around, and I was like, man, you're playing some really intricate stuff that obviously we're talking 20 years ago, but 1996 through 2005, Damian Knapp's not playing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's those bill collectors again.
Well, my bag's way over
yeah,
there.
you're good, man. You're good. It'll be like
it's
theme
a sign
music.
of the times, though. It really is a sign of the times. It's like, I miss the days where we all just had a dial-up phone. If you weren't home, guess what? They didn't get a hold of you.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Because if you weren't home, you were probably busy. And that's the thing. People, I think that's part of why I think you don't see the crowds like you used to sometimes, is because people are like worn out. They're working too hard, sometimes 2 jobs, and they're stressed out. I mean, people are busy, like I said, and they're getting the phones ringing, and so their kids need something, or
Text
it's just
message,
nonstop.
Yeah, it's they're getting input all the time. I almost feel like when I used to go out and listen to different guys, yourself included, and sometimes I would just want to sit there and kind of just zone out and really immerse yourself in the music. Sometimes I'd bring a notepad and I'd write, whether I was trying to write prose or just make notes, and you don't see that, and I wasn't the only one. You don't see that a lot anymore, and I think it is probably because we're so inundated with activity and input, and it's like
overload.
It's overload, and
it is.
Like I watch my wife sometimes. I feel the same way, and it might just be a sign of my age. But like, man, I come home from work sometimes. I feel like I didn't even really work that hard today. But damn, am I just so exhausted? Mm-hmm. And I think it's from being also so available. The client texts you, you feel like you got to text them back right away. You got to get the call. You got to make a call. You got to send the email, and man, you get to the weekend, and unfortunately, sometimes you don't have the energy even to do much. But what a great experience that is to be able to go out and listen to live music, and especially when it's done well. It's real easy now to listen to stuff on the radio or on the internet, and everything's like so technically perfect. Everything's auto-tuned, and it's just so tight, and that's great in a recording sense, and I appreciate that stuff, especially as a production guy. But man, sometimes the imperfections, the stuff that's played just a little off time, or the singer doesn't hit the note perfectly but stretches it into something else, eventually gets there. Those little things that happen in the moment, that's where I think where like a lot of the magic is at, and we miss that sometimes in our society because we don't have that experience like we used to. Getting together as a group too, you all experience in a room together, or in a stadium.
Yeah, or a small bar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think, like what I tell younger people when they tell me they want to start a band, I said, well, announce that you're having a party at your house. You're going to have some beer, some chips, whatever, and stereo, maybe your band's going to play in the living room. So you invite, if you can get 30 or 40 people to come, then you could book a band. Because what these, around here anyway, I'm talking, the Mahoning Valley, a lot of venues, they're just looking for like anybody who could bring in some people, 10, 20, because they don't have a crowd. And you're seeing that So sometimes you'll go in and you'll maybe hear something, like what? Why'd they book them? That's why.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of didn't matter the quality as much as they brought some people. They brought a good following, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I'm almost 50. My friends have grandkids. They're in rehab, AA. They got a DUI, whatever. It's not that it's simple anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, come on. I'm almost 50. That's why I love the Strip. Geneva on the Strip is like taking a walk back in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nostalgic. You get a nice sea breeze from the water. There's people everywhere. It's a resort town.
Sure.
No one's driving, so they're not worried about that, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
I love it up there. Without it, I don't know what I would do.
Well, that's what I really admire about you is like you've been on the road, going to all these different places and really planting your flag in those different areas to get your music out. And it's probably a catch-22, right? Because you can do that through the internet, but you miss that magic of connecting with a live audience, and people feeling that with a whole group. You see like a great band or great musician and everybody in that room, whether it's 50 people or 500, they experience it together. And then if everyone's grooving, you're drinking a little more beer, you're like, man, that guy's really good. Oh, he's selling a CD, cool. And you can kind of your music feels to me like it's really spread out, in a good way, where it's like you plant the flag in the the lowest hanging fruit, your hometown, or your home area, but you've been out there like really grinding. And it seems like to me that is a way that you've expanded your circle, if you will.
Well, the more gigs I can do, the better. Like this new band I'm doing with my good friend Larry Infant.
Shout out, Larry. And Mark Jameson.
Yeah, Mark Jameson on keyboard. Mystic Highway. It's a Doors tribute.
Yeah.
The three of us, we love the Doors. I remember them in high school playing the Doors.
Yeah, sure.
And just that love of the music, we've never even had to rehearse from the first gig, and it's even gotten to where we're jamming now. We're like improving with the Doors stuff, like taking some liberties. It's just natural flow.
Sure.
Because everyone's heard the live stuff, and I'm a huge Doors fan, always have been, and so are Larry and Mark. And we have a show coming up at the German Club in Sharon, Pennsylvania, the Apollo Manicore.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a private club, but they draw a good crowd, a live music crowd. Good people go there to hear
the music. Yeah.
They've cultivated that. It's like an old beer hall with a stage. And they have good food, good homemade sauerkraut and German sausage. It's a German club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's some of the other places like you like to play, in the vicinity, not like locally, but within a 50-mile radius,
Yeah, I had a really good time playing at Moondogs in Pittsburgh, but when I won their Blues Challenge.
Okay.
That seems to be one of the places that's still booking like touring national blues acts. Sometimes it's hard to get them around here. The West Coast is hopping. Florida's always hopping, But yeah, Moondogs in Pittsburgh. That was a cool place. I'm playing Saturday at the Manor in Austintown, where your Uncle Frank used to play.
Sure.
They have a drink named after a sandwich.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
I have to go just to get
the
it.
Frank Castellano. Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
And so there I play mostly blues, but who knows? Sometimes, Don, the owner, he's a big supporter of mine. He's helped me a lot through the years. He likes it when I just play blues. He really does. But sometimes he knows if it gets really crowded, I got to give these people some stuff that they know or like,
Sure.
And that's it seems to me these days, if you can keep your audience happy, you're doing all right.
Yeah. You must be doing something right, keeping these guys coming back, because your schedule through the summer is crazy. I want to read off just a couple of them so people can hear. If I stayed on this list the whole time, we'd probably run the show out because you got so many. While I'm looking this up, though, we mentioned a bunch of different bands, and what were some local influences for you, like when you were out playing, like? Obviously you get people that are like, you're going to have the haters out there, or the people that want to keep it to themselves. Like, What were some of the people that were on the other side of that? You know, who'd you like locally? Who'd you go listen to, and who was supportive of it?
Well, growing up, like I said, I'd go see Carmen Horvath and the Azure Daddies, Pete Broberg, the guitar player, and he's a lifelong friend, as Carmen is. And then I remember, like, Paul Rader was like, I think he was before Gary Perron with the solo acoustic thing.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of invented it. But it was only bands.
Yeah.
He was one of the first. Now it's more solos than bands. But, and then, you know, I had been playing at the Fiesta for a while, and I think somebody at the New York Music that was on Youngstown Road.
Yeah, I remember that place.
Gave me a tape of Gary Lee.
Oh, yeah.
And I just was like, who is this guy? And I remember calling him and you know, looking back, I think if there was one artist that I thought if I, you know, that I thought that, you know, could have become a household name around here, it would be Gary, because he had first of all, the voice, very unique, strong, powerful voice. So when you listen to the great bands like Bob Seger, Van Halen, or any of the blues, it's the singing that's different. And then two, he had great charisma, stage presence, fun to watch, all those kind of things, great showman, and then the good musicianship.
Yeah.
You know, great feel. And his recent, he just put out a new album about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I thought it came out great. Yeah, everybody should check that out. It's fantastic. It's like the zenith of blues singing. And, you know, I mean, I have sent his stuff to people that I know in the music business, and that's how I know they're not listening. Because if they did, they'd call me back and go, who is that? But they don't. Yeah. Because they don't, you know, in the music business today, it's very hard to catch someone's ear, even just for a minute. They just, you know, and it's unfortunate. But that's, you know, that's the way it is. You know, and of course, Gary Perron is a lifelong friend of mine, good friend, major talent, still playing.
Yeah. Still busting guitar strings.
Yep. Yeah.
He plays hard, man.
He's still out there. And, you know, and there's always, you know, young bands that seem to be, it never seems like there was a shortage of people trying to do it. You know, but yeah, looking back, and you know, Gary and I worked together a little bit through the years, but kind of like on a football team when there's two really good players and then one just has to go play for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know? Unfortunately, I think now in my older age, I think now that, and you know, I realize too, like Gary's about 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was young, I kind of looked up to him and you know, was you know, maybe a little too hard on him because he was so talented. And now I've gotten the same flack from people because I play at a high level too now. I'm 47 years old. I've been doing this a long time too. I earned my stripes, you know. But I'll tell you what, when you do walk into a club and you're smoking and everybody, they love you, their jaws are dropped, they're all hanging, who's this guy, who's that guy, but they're glad when you leave. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're glad when you leave, man. They don't want you hanging around.
The musicians.
Oh, no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
No. It's not fun to be that guy. I wanted to be that guy when I was young, watching him. Well, then I became that guy, and I realized, man, this ain't all it's cracked up to be.
Everybody's
eyes on you.
This guy
hates me over here. Right. This guy said I did something I don't know what he's talking about. This guy over here said this, and I didn't even know I was so popular. You know, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It can be a nightmare. It really can. So.
A lot of pressure.
Well, you know, it's just people expect so much out of you. Like I have lost people who have come to see me play over the years too, because maybe they were at a show and when I went on break, I really had to go to the bathroom or I had something going on at home. And I had to go and they'll get mad because I didn't like sit with them or talk to them and that, well, he's full of himself and they won't come back. And it's like, no, wait a minute. I'm at work.
Right.
this isn't like, sometimes, I didn't always have the time to be everybody's friend, but they want that.
Right.
They want a piece of you.
Yeah, they want to be close to you.
I can't always give everybody sometimes I just have other business going on, and
Yeah.
I can't. What you get is the show.
Right.
That's what the main thing.
Well, and sometimes, like, do you feel like we get this a little bit, like, when we're videoing and people are like, hey, what news channel are you from? Or what are you shooting for? Or, and I'm in the middle of, like, trying to see through the lens and set the shot up or whatever. And even if you're doing, I've had a very few experiences where I've, played out a little bit, that even if you're preparing for something live, like, just setting these cameras up and conversing. And if you got multiple people, you're trying to be in your headspace. You're thinking about what the set list is, or what the next music you're going to play is, or the microphone's buzzing, I got to fix this, and here's somebody who's had a few drinks and they want to talk to you. I would see it multiple times. People want to talk to, and you want to feel, like you say, they want a piece of you. You want to feel close to that person. Mentioning Gary, Gary was always so affable to folks, and really I felt like he took the time with people, and I knew he had other shit going on in his head of what he was going to play, and it was like, there's a little bit of a knack to that too, right? To still kind of be friendly, and because you don't want to lose them, but at the same time, like he said, you're at work. It's the same thing as a crane operator. Hey, I'm trying to drop this pallet of steel on something, and you're over here, you got 4 people talking to me, and they're all drinking beer,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I know Gary Lee too. He was one of the headliners last summer at the Canton Blues Festival.
Yeah.
So he had Jim Richley on drums.
Oh yeah,
and
JR.
that's an old Fester Presley alumni there. That's going back, and I love to see that.
Yeah, JR's great.
I might not talk to those guys that much because we're all like passing ships in the night.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? But when I see those guys playing together, I think, wow, that's cool. That's old school. That's cool.
Sometimes I'll go up to they play once a month. It's Doug Thomas.
Yeah.
And
Doug was in my dad's band, I Don't Care. Doug was a singer.
And he's still rocking out,
doing
man.
it. Yeah. He's in the Chicago tribute band right now.
Yeah, the what is that band called? The
Brass Metropolis.
Brass Metropolis, man, with Dominic Rito. Mm-hmm. And I think JR's in that band too. Is JR on drums in that band?
Not anymore. He was.
Okay.
He was. I don't know what happened. No, he's not with them right now.
They play a little trio up at Up a Creek.
Yeah, RTR.
Yeah, which I think is their initials.
Yeah.
They got a great sound, man. Great band.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see that. I know Up a Creek just changed hands.
Yeah. And she's doing a nice job. I met the owner last year, and
the
really
lady?
nice. Yeah.
See, I've talked to probably her husband.
Okay.
I've talked to him a few times. I thought the Doors band.
Yeah, for sure.
In the summer.
For sure.
Like
out on the
hot
patio.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That the Doors band, what I like about it, it's very authentic.
Yeah.
Like the keyboard, Mark Jameson has all the original equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And then Larry, he's been playing that stuff his whole life.
Yeah.
And so he just has like a natural knack to it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got that surf jazz vibe, and it's just
we used to set up next door to the ITAM 30 where Larry was living in that house. And Mark would bring over the keyboard, and he was into that, and I can half-ass sing some of that stuff, and at that time played none of it, now a little bit, but those guys, we would just jam, and it all kind of turned into like a Doors sounding mode, even if we were just riffing and making stuff up. That's probably a great act to see.
You know what I'm thinking? Maybe let's play a Doors tune.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. The cars is by my window, like the waves down on the beach. Well, I got this girl beside me, but she out of reach. Headlight through my window, shining on the window, shining on the wall. Can't hear my baby, though I call and call. Something like that, yeah. Cars hits by my window, L.A. Woman.
I want to run through because I'm looking over here on the on your Facebook page, and listeners out there, we call them prodders out there. Check out Damian Knapp. It's spelled DamianKnapp. Damian Knapp. He's on Facebook, and he's got Damian Knapp Music. Again, DamianKnapp music.com. He's got tons of videos on there. I was actually checking out a couple of them the other night. Lots of live stuff, a little bit of history of his music, and certainly those dates on there. But if you check out his Facebook page, this summer lineup, man, you got a lot of stuff you got going on. June 2nd, Harpersfield Winery. June 27th, Sportsters. Where's that at?
Sportsters is on the Strip in Geneva.
Oh, that's in Geneva too?
It's the big one in the middle with the big outdoor stage. It's the biggest outdoor stage on the Strip.
Okay.
I play there a lot.
And then you've got...
I'll be there in a couple weeks on Friday.
Okay.
I think early May.
Okay. You got Yellow Dog Saloon.
I mean April.
And yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not sure when this episode will come out.
No, I mean April as far as the next time at Sportsters, I'm there on a Friday in April.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I have a band show at Sportsters May 19th.
Okay.
With the Damian Knapp 3, which is another band of mine. It's my trio. And
who's in that band?
Longtime drummer Tim Lane from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
He was in the original Testify. I've been playing with them off and on since probably like 08,
okay.
09. So, yeah, him. And then on the bass guitar is Tim Williams, who's a younger fellow. I think he's 30, but he's got an old soul. He loves the Beatles. He's a Beatles nut. He plays a Hofner. He knows every Paul McCartney song, and he's done Beatles tribute bands. So he's a really talented guy, and we play quite a bit of Beatles in that band.
Okay.
Quite a bit. And, and we just do a mix. Wherever we play different music wherever we're at.
Sure.
Yeah, we're versatile. But we, the Damian Knapp 3 could be a number of musical, motifs or moods or depending on what's going on, what the gig is, where it's at.
You're like, get in where you fit in, man. Totally diversified. I love that because you never know what you're going to get. But I like how you kind of define it here. So if somebody wants to see, they want to get more blues style, they can go to that 20th century, show.
Yeah.
Or if they want to get into their 60s of the Doors, they can check out, the Mystic Highway. You've got them on July 15th. You've got the Mystic Highway tribute band is playing at the Pavilion on Geneva on the Lake. That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then
we're there again in August.
You're there again in August on the 26th, and then September 8th.
That's at Thunder on the Strip, September 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says the Pavilion.
Yeah. No, it's Thunder on the Strip.
Oh, Thunder on the Strip.
That's a whole thing. Yeah,
okay.
It's a whole weekend.
Gotcha.
So that'll be pretty wild because it's the Pavilion's a really cool spot up there on the Strip. It's a 2-story quote patio. It's so you can smoke. It's open.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool, and I dig it a lot. It's kind of different from. It's not real. It's kind of like off. It's right next to the Cove.
Okay.
But it's a bit of the off the beaten path, a little bit down towards the east end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that Doors band's going to do real good there because people are going to hear us walking by.
Right on.
And they hear that keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
It's just too...
Yeah, Mark's something else, man.
And like I said, with that band, sometimes we take off and I'm playing the guitar solos my own way. Like putting the same ideas, but not copying Robbie Krieger, although I love to do that too, but I can go off on my own and improvise so much of that because I've studied what that's based off, which is like Miles Davis kind of blue.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely. That modal playing, all the rock bands of the 60s caught that from that album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great album. It's that idea of like, playing modally, playing a modal scale over a vamp.
Okay.
It's like Light My Fire is based off that. So much of it is. And so many rock bands, from the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers. So I've studied that early jazz where that comes from, so I could just adapt to it that way. Play it like what would Miles do?
Make it your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's the Yellow Dog?
That's out in Cortland.
Yeah, I see you got a bunch of shows booked on that throughout the summer. Is that a new? I think Danny.
Danny Lopez?
Danny Lopez.
Yeah.
I had a brain fart there. Sorry, Danny. Yeah, Danny Lopez is. I think I've seen him out there a couple times.
But you said Danny, and I knew it was Danny Lopez.
Right.
Because he's been out there playing. I'll tell you what. Danny Lopez, he can play the blues, and when he's up there, he's surfing, as I told him. I said, man, you're surfing.
Yeah.
You're really playing the blues. You're not. Like, I see guys try that, and they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to copy something that they don't really know what they're doing. But Danny, he can jam.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah. See, I love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Danny's a great player.
Yeah.
He got a great voice, too. I love when he covers, like, 80s tunes.
Yeah.
And he kind of does it his own way, and it's cool.
I've had a good time going to see him. I've had a good time going to see the Youngstown Cowboys.
Okay, not familiar with them.
Well, my sometimes bass player Tim Fredericks,
Okay.
who I grew up playing with back in the 90s over Little Wing and that, he was there. They, what was we saying about?
We were talking about Danny Lopez playing.
Yeah. And I like it. In the Youngstown Cowboys, Tim Fredericks plays bass, and a guy, Tom, I don't know his last name, but I really enjoy he's a guitar player.
Okay.
And Jimmy Jett plays drums. And the guitar player is really fun to watch. They play a lot of classic rock, like the best of the best. And they don't take themselves too serious. They're a fun band to go see.
See, that's kind of a cool thing, too, man, when cats are not, like you said, they don't take themselves too serious. They're there and they're...
I know, I can't do it, man. I wish I could. I really do, man. I wish I could.
But you were pretty intense, man. When you were in the 90s, man, even like Shotgun Mary, you mentioned Little Wing. I saw you play Shotgun Mary at Little Wing one night.
No, Machine Gun
Mary.
Mary?
I'm sorry.
No, Fester Presley, maybe.
No. Machine Gun Mary. I think you played at...
Never at Little Wing.
Never at Little Wings?
No.
Where did I see you play? I got a faulty memory.
You know what? You may have seen us at our very last gig, unfortunately, was where we said we'd never end up. But our last gig was across the street from the Fiesta, that little shoebox.
I remember that place.
Papa Doo's?
Yeah, Papa Doo's.
Maybe it was there.
Maybe, because it was a smaller space.
Wait, no. We did play at that place that's right before the Giant Eagle Plaza. Machine Gun Mary played there. It was called the Full Moon Saloon, and it's been an ITAM since.
Okay.
But yeah, we played there. Maybe that's where.
Maybe that's it.
That would be it.
I just remember you were very intense.
Yeah.
During those shows.
That video I saw, I just thought, wow. That's why I tell younger people when they have something going on, they say, well, when's the best time? For this, or when's the best time to do this? And I tell them, like, right now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. All you have is the moment. In that business, you got to seize upon that when you have something like that. I think that band could have got a record deal. There's no doubt in my mind.
It was intense, man.
But the drummer, that's what kind of broke up the band. He found himself dealing with some personal struggles, and he just had to take a break from everything.
Yeah.
And he's doing great. He was my partner in the band, really, Jonas. He was the heart and soul of the band. And we couldn't really go on without him because he never played drums before. He roadied for his uncle, who was a pretty popular drummer around here at one time, but he never played in a band. So, he taught himself, and so he taught himself how to play to the music. So it's totally unique. He wasn't a session drummer, a professional drummer, but he had this thing, and it sounded like a Tommy gun. And he did it almost on every song, and it was like really, really cool. Without him, I mean, forget it.
Maybe that's that intensity, man. It was always like, very edgy, very raw. And it's funny to remember that, and to see you sitting across now, and you're like very relaxed and very just like, these terms like, this guy came into his own or whatever, however that feel is. But that's the vibe, that's the Damian Knapp vibe I get now.
Yeah, people have told me that. My good friend Gary Palcisco, he's like, man, come on. I remember when I used to see the 90. I want you to get up there and sweat. I want you to get up there and toil. And I'm like, man, I don't do that no more, man.
Yeah.
I'm just chilling.
But you're also a more complete player now.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes, like Frank would always say, I'm not going to get up there and light my fucking hair on fire. But sometimes that's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. To get that attention so that the music comes through. But if you're at the level that you're at, you don't really have to do that anymore. You know what I mean? It's like you almost, the musicality and the technician part of it almost supersedes that. Unfortunately, nowadays maybe the audience doesn't recognize that as much as they did in the past, right?
Well, the good thing is they're not paying as much attention as they used to.
So if you
people are busy, they're on their phone, they're watching TV. Maybe they're at a table with their friends, laughing, drinking, partying, hanging out. And you know what? Like culturally, over the last decade or so, I've actually gotten kind of used to that, and I kind of like it. Because in a way, they're happy, I'm happy, and they're not really pressing me. Mm-hmm. They can come up and request a tune or whatever, but it's not like they're coming there. Whereas if I do want to chill out, I can. They're not coming there for some like great musical experience of a life. Yeah. They're just partying.
That's cool.
And people are like that everywhere. I mean, sometimes it can get annoying, for sure. Like when I was on the Ray Mancini's show, he asked me why I was wearing sunglasses. He said, I like to be able to look a guy in the eye. And I said, Ray, I'll explain it during the show. And I told him I wear these shades to protect me from the audience sometimes, because they don't see me watching them totally not paying attention to the music. Now, the good thing is most of those places where I find myself, I don't keep playing them. I won't do it. Mm-hmm. The places I play right now are all good gigs where people come to hear the music, and I've cultivated that. Some guys will go, like we were talking about Salvatore's or something.
Yeah.
Great food, great restaurant.
Sure.
But for being, that's a terrible gig.
It's a small space.
It's too small, and no one really cares. Those kind of places, I don't want to be there. Now, some guys will go and cash a check, and I've just gotten to the point where, man, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, these venues, they don't get it. I check them out too. They're not just checking me out. I'm checking them out.
Sure.
And so it goes both ways.
How's it changed in the way you used to book stuff? Like, is it easier now because you've been doing it for so long?
It's all on Facebook, basically.
Is that right?
Everything that comes through there.
What do they borrow message you there?
Yeah, I'd love to get off of Facebook.
Yeah.
But I can't.
It's like a necessary evil.
It is. I mean, I'd love to get off of it. I really would. But most of my gigs are booked that way. And asking people to get a hold of me at this way or that way, you don't want to do that. You want them to get a hold of you exactly the same way they've been doing it. And that's how it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I had a question I wanted to make sure I got in, talking about, new bookings. I guess we just covered that. I want to ask you about, you had mentioned like struggles and stuff like that. That was a pretty, if I go back to that era in the 90s and 2000s and us, we were young, fucking out there partying and drinking. And I had a conversation with Eric Murphy the other day, and we were saying, man, like, I'm so happy that we all made it through that era. Some of us had some struggles and whatnot, but like, I don't see like people, and I don't see it because I'm not out, in the venues as much as you are. I don't see people like partying as much, or like these, which I think is a good thing. These young kids, they're not out there partying hard like we did back in that day. Was that difficult to get out of that modality? Like when you were younger, and did you ever have any struggles that you had to get through that someone could kind of lean on, and if they're listening now and they're trying to go through it themselves, especially musician wise, because I know that's prevalent. We talked about Lane Staley and Alice in Chains.
Oh God, yes, it's part of that. People who have a high motor, like Greg Allman. I watched him. There's on Dan Rather went to his house, and Greg starts telling him like when he finally got sober, clean, he had the nurse move in to the house. He didn't go to a rehab because he'd been to rehab I don't know how many dozens of times. So he had the medical people move in, and he said, I quit heroin, cocaine. He goes down this list. I'm like, oh my God, like he was taking all that at the same time. But someone that's a high motor person. It's a very bright, talented, person, and sometimes that's just, it quells the gremlins. It's something that I don't think people who aren't artists understand that. But it's people, places, and things. And unfortunately, there's been friends of ours who I did talk to who within like the last, 5-6 years, we did lose. Sure. And I remember talking to them about it, like, never mind those urges. Because the one time that you act on that could be your last.
Yeah.
And you know what? It happened to people.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. I mean, there's so much more to do than to waste your time and your money. And none of those people are your friends. They don't care about you.
Right.
They don't care about you. And
they want to party with you.
And I have a lot of friends who I grew up with around here who I hate, I certainly wouldn't mention any names, but, they did sort of turn into garbage cans, just total waste of life. 20, 25 years later, I hear, they're still, doing the same things and being degraded and all them kind of things, not working, not doing nothing. And it's a shame.
Yeah.
Around here, unfortunately, there's a lot of it because I don't know what that is. Maybe lack of opportunity. I know the pharmaceutical companies had everything to do with it. They poured that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Here, West Virginia, Kentucky, Northeast Ohio. I mean, there were so many. Canton, Ohio had a mobile morgue at one point, a refrigerated truck, because they didn't have all the room. Now that's serious.
That's scary.
And that's why in the judicial, I'm always on the side most of the time of the defendant, because them pharmaceutical companies, they made like maybe $1 trillion off all that, and how many of them went to jail?
Very few.
But they were the ones that concocted it, put it together, invented it, made it. The synthetic heroin is what it is.
Sure.
And then you wonder why that fentanyl thing, well, of course it's going to get to the point where people are looking for like horse tranquilizer because you've maxed them out. Their tolerance is so high, and that's what takes people out.
Yeah.
And so I just tell people like, you'll never get to that sort of euphoria again, but you're never going to be down in the gutter either.
Right.
Miserable, sick, broke. Is it worth it? No.
Do you think music had a lot to do with that because you have an outlet? You have it's not a hobby, it's your profession, but that passion to do stuff. Some people they go to work, they got nothing else, and it's like they're not passionate about anything in their life because maybe they didn't have that experience. Do you think music helped you get through that? Because you got a lot of music. You've put a lot of music out, and you've got so much music still in you.
Definitely. I always say people need a passion. You need that in life, something other than just the mundane of existence. Where it seems like a lot of people, I've heard it explained, I push a rock up a hill and then watch it go down, and the next day I do it over again. Mm-hmm. I can't do that. I did it sort of for 12 years at Packard, but I took an educational leave once for a year. I had other breaks. The last couple of years I was laid off a lot because the place was moving overseas. So, and then it went bankrupt in 2006. So, but, I did work in a factory for like 12 years, but I wouldn't say that I had it pretty good in there. Unfortunately, that old saying is true. The guy who's like a screw up, right? Who's not real dedicated, we'll just give him an easy job.
Yeah.
So he doesn't cause us any grief.
Yeah.
And I was that guy. They stuck me down in this little plant in the middle of nowhere, way out on the big complex. And I just checked parts under a magnifying glass. That's it. The last 5 years I was there, and I had a really good foreman, really good general foreman. They looked out for me. I mean, if it wasn't for some of the people that I knew on the inside there that were helping me or would give me, hey, that's Damian, that's my nephew, or that's my, I knew his dad, or I knew his mom, or that kind of thing. I honestly think that I could have been fired before the place went under. And I don't know how much longer I was going to last either. Anyway.
Was music taking over the
It always was
space?
Number one,
Yeah.
but still just the fumes, the stuff that they had us using to spray on the parts we were making and with no label on it, that kind of stuff was just, this is poisonous.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, And then as time, but if I'm lucky, basically, that I made it out of that. And I did get a 10-year retirement out of it, believe it or not.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I barely made that. Even though I worked there for 12, I barely made, because they go by hours.
Yeah.
Not time. I made it. But, I mean, it was tough. I'm glad I did that when I was younger, I guess, because now, physically, there's no way. And I worked with people my age that were doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't. I just couldn't do that kind of work anymore. I've never worked in a place like that since. I probably never will.
Well, that probably says something about your drive and musicianship.
Well, I went back to college, too.
Oh, yeah.
I graduated from YSU in December of 14.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went for education, and I ended up doing history. But I did take a lot of education courses, too. But, and I could possibly go to grad school someday. But I'm not totally sure, about that right now. But and then I have my son is 12, Sean.
I had no idea.
Really? Yeah. I kind of keep him out of my public life. I don't. He's not a musician. He doesn't.
I remember you had a son. I didn't know he was 12 years old.
Yeah,
that talk about making somebody feel old.
Well, he's almost 6 foot tall, and he's only 12.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he's a head taller than all his classmates. And he's big too. His cousin plays college football. He's 6'5", 320. He plays for Lake Erie. Real good football player, center. And Sean's bigger than him at that age.
Wow.
So I've been training him more with football. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that's cool.
The next 5 or 6 years training somebody, because I told him playing collegiately is something that I would have enjoyed, but I didn't have the size.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he will. So
is he into music too?
No. Like I said, I didn't raise him in any of that. I didn't. Unlike my parents, like I said, music was a big part. With him, no. And because I didn't want him to follow in my footsteps in that. And so far, so good. I don't foresee him ever. He's a straight A student, real well behaved, the complete opposite of me at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah, the complete opposite. He's like another teacher in the classroom, where I was the kid that was behind and hadn't shown up in a few days and was in trouble for something, or ISS. I lived in it. And, I was reading at a high level in 6th grade. I was reading my sister's books like Silas Marner. And my first favorite place to go was the bookstore. But no one really noticed that. And I remember the guy, Mr. Bosco, God rest his soul, He'd come up to me in ISS and he goes, "What are you doing, 6th grade, reading? You're reading this stuff and you're sitting in here? Like, what's the matter with you? You know, you're smart. You're not stupid." But I was just mischievous and, you know, and but my son is the complete opposite, man. Like, he reads all that stuff. His reading level's real high. And in math, too. He did mention, he scared me last week, actually. He goes, "Hey, I'm listening to Robert Johnson." And I'm like, "Oh, no."
Crossroads.
Yeah, and he goes, "No, I've been reading about it." And I realize he's just getting to that age where he's wants to learn about stuff.
Sure.
I don't think he's going to, like, pick up a guitar or anything. I sure hope not.
Do you feel like you want to protect him from the lifestyle?
Yes,
and yeah,
all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, doing what I do, unfortunately, a lot of artists, they go into whatever art it is, whether it's painting, music, poetry, you name it, because they want to, like, you know, heal something or heal the world around them. They think they're going to do it with their artwork, and it's like 95% rejection.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard. Like, people wonder why I'm not scared of any sort of rejection at all. And people are like, "Wow, how could you have the guts to do that?" And I'm like, man,
You've been told no
I've been
5,000
told
times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, are you kidding?
I know.
It becomes a way of life where you just expect it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with the music business. You know, like, I went and showcased in New York back in 2007, like 3 times for Eagle Rock Music, and played with some really cool bands and met a lot of cool people and stuff and did real well. But like I said, even then, that wasn't that long after the Napster thing. The music business hadn't rebounded. And the quote was, the guy said, "I lost my butt last year on George Thorogood, and he's a household name. What am I going to do with you? Right? No one knows who you are." And but like we were talking yesterday, the music business has rebounded through streaming. They're almost at $1 billion again, which is really good. That could change things.
Sure.
They could get back to developing artists again with that money, and hopefully there'll be a shift, because they were basically, my lifetime's probably the worst time to ever do that. Basically, I had like a 3 or 4 year window in the 90s, because once Napster hit, that was it. I mean, the music industry was bankrupted overnight.
Sure.
It took them 15, 20 years to come back. But now that they're back, I know artists don't make any money off streaming, but the record labels are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's
I can't steal a stream.
Right.
It's a great way around theft.
Well, and I think maybe that's what we see in the resurgence locally too, is some of these artists, because the music industry, like even Jeff Burke out at the Record Connection, he's selling a lot of vinyl now, and he has Record Day, and he's still kind of promoting, and it seems like the people are kind of blistering back to the surface, the music lovers, and I'm hopeful of the younger. I know a lot of people shit on the younger generation. I got into last summer I got into a discussion with my goddaughter's friend at the time, and he was saying we were talking about hip hop and rap, and he was talking about different artists that he liked, and I was kind of poo-pooing on modern day rap, because I was saying these guys that are today, they're not saying anything that's any different than the guys, Tupac and Ice Cube and just the list goes on.
They're
NWA.
impersonators.
It feels like very inauthentic and very like they did it better then when it was new, and now it's like just a rehash. But I think that's, and I'm generalizing, right?
I think it's all part of this postmodernism that we're living in right now.
Could be.
Where it's like, we're in like a postmodern wasteland where it's all just regurgitated.
A lot of...
You're not even allowed to be a rock star anymore. You'll be on the cover of People magazine, and your record label will drop you.
Yeah.
It like that happened to Marilyn Manson a couple years ago, because some girls or something. I'm thinking, we're talking about Marilyn Manson. What do you think he's doing?
Yeah.
He's strange, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think he never did anything criminal. But yeah, he got dropped from his label.
I think he did
a
do
couple
some
years
criminal
ago.
shit though, didn't he? He got
Maybe.
charged with some different
Yeah,
shit.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I always consider him like the last rock star.
Okay.
He's one of the last rock stars that just lived the way he wanted, did what he said what he wanted, sang what he wanted to, and I miss that in music. Rock and roll should be dangerous. Elvis was dangerous.
Dangerous, man, right.
The Beatles
should
were
be a little
dangerous.
dangerous.
When they first came out. I mean, and that's like lacking now. Like it's so corporate. You can see it.
Yeah.
God.
A lot of homogenized stuff. But I give credit to this millennial. I know, like I said, that people shit on them a little bit. They seem like they're going out, or that tail end of Gen X is going back out on the scene and reconnecting with live acts and live artists. Hopefully that's what's driving. Maybe we'll see, we were talking before, like everything that's old gets new again. Mom jeans and mullets and stuff like that.
Well, that crowd I told you about, I played for at the Underground Lounge in downtown Warren.
Yeah.
Beneath the Best Western.
Yep. Shout out to them. Good peeps, good food.
Great place to go. Definitely.
North Park Avenue.
Yeah, it's great. And I love it down there. And what was I saying about them?
You love the Underground. It was a great place to play.
Yeah. What were we getting?
We're talking about like the millennials that are kind of coming out to these shows.
Oh yeah,
now.
yeah. It's a big table of 25 to 35, and I played Sublime, Pharrell Williams, Everlast, The Strokes, and I went on bragging. They come up when they were leaving. They come up. They gave me $20. And they're like, we really dug you.
Nice.
And I'm thinking that I'm doing something right. If I can entertain a 25-year-old, then that's good.
With a million distractions coming at them.
Well, but they're going to be the ones in 10 years I'll be playing for.
Yeah.
And I like the early 2000s produced a lot of good music. I like a lot of that stuff. I love the Strokes and Coldplay and Ryan Adams and Pharrell Williams, people like Maroon 5, people like that. I mean, it's bluesy. A lot of it is bluesy. And that's the stuff I kind of go towards.
Yeah.
The bluesier stuff from that, but new.
What's old is new again.
I hope so. I mean, I think the music business wise, like we were talking, the only thing I can hope for is that current trends in the blues in the industry kind of change, and they do decade to decade. Things, what's cool in the 80s wasn't cool in the 90s, and so forth. I think if there's ever a return to, hey, we're looking for like some real deal blues, like old school, no fluff, no gimmicks. Just then I'll be in good shape because I play an older style.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not into trends. I don't try and shred like Joe Bonamassa. I don't listen to that. I respect him and great player, but not my cup of tea. And just a lot of the newer stuff I don't particularly like a lot of it. It's like I was a little disappointed. Bruce Iglauer at Alligator Records, which is the biggest blues label in the world in Chicago. I mean, I own hundreds of titles. He wrote me a 2-page letter about my album, The K&R Cities, and it's my all original blues album. He went through every song. Must have taken a lot of time, but he kept saying, your lyrics are too preachy. They're just a little too preachy for this label. You want to stay away from some of this. He goes, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with you, but that's not what we do here. And you're hearing that more and more. It's like you can't even be an artist anymore. You can't even say anything that is even slightly like it might offend somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, because the name of the album is Decay in Our Cities, and a lot of the songs are about, like the song Nobody Wants to Budge. It's like, let's see here. Calm is to the left of me, fast is to the right. In no man's land, no peace in sight. Double standards rule the day. People are slinging mud. Everybody's got a grudge, but nobody wants to budge. something like that. It's
Yeah,
kinda,
yeah.
You know, and he was like, you're too preachy. And I'm just thinking, man, I'm just singing about modern society. I thought that's what you guys were looking for, an artist, somebody with something to say other than,
right.
you know, I caught the midnight train. And I like to tell people in the business, I don't write songs about picking cotton and riding trains because I never did that.
Yeah.
I write songs about my life here. Another song I had was On My Way to Work, and it was about my 10-minute drive to work. That's real, you know, and hopefully down the road, hopefully the blues industry will change a little bit from where it's at right now. Right now there seems to be a youth movement, kind of like pretty girls,
Short skirts,
stuff like that. And I mean, you know, we'll see what happens, because that can change. They might go through that, you know, and realize, hey, you know, we need to go find, you know, one of them old school cats who really lays it out, and then I'll be in good shape.
Well, you certainly have a lot of authenticity as opposed to somebody where they're just trying to package something into here's the girl and she looks good and she's a decent player and she's singing kind of a homogenized version of this style of music. I think back to the late 90s, early 2000s, and Sheryl Crow was like coming on the scene, and I still dig her music because everything she sang about sounded, it might have been, and of course it wasn't, if you watch the documentary and know anything about her, whatever, but she was singing about her life in the music industry and kind of making it sounded authentic. It was like, oh, she's really done this stuff. And I think that always will gravitate people to you. They might not like what you're saying, right? But at least it starts, I think art should always start a discourse among people, like even that little riff you were playing right there, fascists on the left of me, communists on the right, you're making a social commentary, and it makes sense that you said you studied history at YSU because you're a real, a real kind of music historian and life historian, but it's authentic and you've experienced this stuff, right? They always say if you're a writer, write what you know.
I usually do open tuning, but I'll try and do like something like, real quick, something like, I'll do like, decaying our city, madman running our street. There's decay in our city, madman running our street. Well, it's dog eat dog. It's dog eat dog. I can't find a job. I lost mine last week. Something like,
yeah.
Where I'm talking about what we're experiencing here, there's decay in our cities. I lost my job, I can't find a job. I lost mine last week.
Right.
Is that you're like, used to have friends, don't want to hear the grief. Around here, like I was talking earlier about them old buddies. And,
yeah. A lot of apathy.
No, used to have friends, don't want to hear the grief. Well, it's dog eat dog. Ain't no receipts out on these streets. Like when I played that for an old friend of mine I grew up with, she was like, wow, you nailed it.
Yeah, that's a great tune.
Yeah.
That's a great tune. That's off of Decay in Our Cities, your album.
That's the title track, yeah. I don't think it's preachy. I just think it's real.
I think it's real, too. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, when you're looking back at those guys like the Robert Johnsons and going back in the blues and they're talking about their experience in the South with racism or with, like you said, you're not going to sing about picking cotton because that's not your experience. But your experience is, losing your job, getting laid off, the grind, the whole thing, and you laying in that music.
You got to watch your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to, and then that's Nobody Wants to Budge. I really like that tune. And because the older I get, I agree with John Lennon. Never mind the institutions, just free your mind instead. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, I was taking a lot of poli-sci, a lot of history, a lot of anthropology. So I look back and I just think, man, I was kind of a jerk, you know.
Why so? What do you say?
Because when I went to high school, I just played football and stuff, didn't study, wasn't academic. So when I went back to college later in life and really got in, knowledge is contagious.
Sure.
Once I got into it, and I was like a straight A student, I graduated like a 3.6. Then I just kind of like a jerk, though, looking back. Like, I knew too much. Now I realize I didn't know anything. It's all, life is an apparent contradiction. It always has been, always will be. The best you can do is just be comfortable with the ambiguity and the gray area and not be so right. I think that's a problem. A lot of Americans, they think they're so right.
They want to, yeah.
It's not 100% to zero. Nothing is. And it's that dichotomy I think we were all raised in, like light versus darkness or God versus the devil. And it's like, you know, and unfortunately you see that in the greater American culture.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just biased. I mean,
oh, yeah.
There's like one guy that I talked to about any of that. He's a lifelong friend. I've known him since I was a kid. He was a little older than me, kind of like almost like a big brother or something. He worked for my grandfather. That's how I met him. And he's not biased. And that's one of the only guys that I like talking to because I just can't stomach it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Americans are really like full of themselves, man. Like, and I used to be one of the worst perpetrators. That's how I know.
Sure.
Because I'm guilty. But I'm like a reformed political junkie. John Lennon's right, man. It ain't in the institution. Free your mind instead and you'll be fine. And that's what I've done, you know. And anybody out there that maybe I pissed off or was annoyed by some of my overzealous thinking, I apologize. I'm sorry. But like I said, my excuse is, you know, it's like an empty skull getting poured in all this information. I mean, I really studied hard and I really was into it. So I was like, hey, it was like new to me.
Sure.
Whereas maybe if I would have been like my son, he's already on the right track. He's a great student already. You know, maybe in my older age, I wouldn't have went through that. But because I didn't get it when I was younger, when I got it when I was older, I just got like, you know, kind of too heady.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people, like I said, I'm comfortable with the ambiguity. I don't need like clear-cut answers anymore because I really don't think they exist. I mean, you can't write a blueprint for Sapiens that's going to be a great non-aggravating system because I don't believe we were ever supposed to be at 40,000 years ago. You know, we had that great cognitive revolution with the human. Before that, we were pretty insignificant and didn't really do much. I mean, our tools would get better. We pretty much stayed the same for, you know, a very, very, very long time. And then all of a sudden we had this huge explosion. And then was it about 30,000 years later, we started to become sedentary, like form in cities and stuff like that. And we're way more wired to be wild.
Yeah. Well,
so you have to be conscious of that and know that this is a struggle and just be comfortable with it. There's no perfect answer. There just isn't. And I don't think humans, sapiens, will ever find a way to perfect orientation. It's never going to happen. It's flawed. Civilization in itself, we're not really wired for that. We're wired to living in like small bands of nomadic, not really nomadic. I mean, well, the sapien was nomadic. Our cousins, Neanderthal, they just stayed put, you know, wherever they were. See, here I go again.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get it.
You're going right.
You don't want to get me in that.
You're going right off the edge, man.
I thought if I went to grad school, I could teach like adjunct.
Yeah.
At college, because in high school I'm not appropriate. you can't really talk to them about deep shit. You'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
So high school's not for me.
And some of them aren't in tune to that yet, you know?
No, I do try, though. I used to. I don't know. I really haven't been the last couple of years, but I would do, when I would sub different classes and different grades, I would say, look at all the mix in this room of skin color, hair color, these kind of things. I was like, how many of you think that the person sitting next to you who maybe looks different than you is a different, like, species? And, like, you wouldn't believe the hands that would go up when they're 12, 13, 14. I would explain to them that, no, we're all just Homo sapiens, and the easiest way to explain that to you is any Homo sapien, a man, a woman, you could take a guy from Idaho and somebody from a woman from the Amazon jungle, and they could make a baby. We're the same species.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. We're all the DNA and the makeup. All this variability is from millions of years of evolution. You know, the skin color, eyes, hair, all that kind of stuff. It's more about sea levels raising and lowering, and people getting separated from each other.
Yeah, Bering Straits. And,
that's here.
More melatonin in our skin down at the equator and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of variability, but not scientifically there isn't, because you can make a baby, and that's the easiest way to explain it. So they walk out of there maybe learning something. Hey, you know, we're all have the same blood and DNA, the same, you know, genome.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and maybe help a little bit with accepting or being okay with someone who's different than you.
We're all different, and it's okay. Your awareness is good, though. I think that had you not had that experience to look back and say, hey, I didn't think about this stuff in high school, and you learned it later on, and now being kind of aware to say, man, I you know, there's wisdom in that. There's a lot of wisdom in Damian Knapp of 2023. Not that there wasn't maybe wisdom back then and other things, but
I was kind of a meathead, maybe a meathead who could play guitar, who had a knack for the blues. But yeah, looking back, I mean, when I graduated from high school, man, I really didn't know much about anything. So when I learned it all, I kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
But for my son, though, now he's getting older. Like I said, he called me and said he was listening to Robert Johnson and reading about it. And I was just glad to see that he's starting to become interested and research things. And for him, I'm helping him. Like he can go through, like, you know, Renaissance and, you know, Martin Luther and the Enlightenment.
Sure.
And how the Enlightenment inspired the Constitution. And I've been training him.
That's pretty cool.
Stuff, to really understand what it means to be an American.
Passing that knowledge on.
That's another thing. Americans are very opinionated, but give any of them like a 20 multiple choice test about American history and the principles of this country, and I guarantee you they'd all flunk. Like, the Constitution is very unique of its kind and very... But I don't think people really understand the validity of it and what it really means. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot deeper than I think the average person on the street walking around realizes.
Well, you ever see those videos where they'll ask people certain questions and they're like, who's the first president of the United States? And she's like, I don't know.
He's like my favorite, I think. I love George Washington because he did not, his farewell address was all about the dangers of political factions and how it will divide this country and will destroy it.
And
he said that.
We're seeing that now. I think you said something really
Very
interesting. And, like, you know, everybody just wants to be right now. And there's shades of gray, right? It's like we got one extreme view over here and we got one extreme view over here. And hey, I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, you're a son of a bitch. And this guy, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, settle down, everybody.
100 years ago, it was like people would fight like that over like what religion you were.
Yeah.
Now nobody cares about that. It's this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what gets people to hate is politics, not religion. It used to be religion, right? Catholics didn't like Protestants and all that kind of old rivalries and stuff. And, you know, that's over with. Nobody would ever get mad at anybody for that. But they sure will hate you over that. Over politics. They'll hate.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I learned a long time ago, you know, too, probably been about 10 years now. But on Facebook, I would get myself in some trouble.
I did too, admittedly and embarrassingly.
Preachy. Yep. Yeah, man.
Likewise.
Being too preachy, thinking I know too much. And nowadays, I have a lot of friends who I vehemently disagree with about that stuff. And I've tried to tell them the same thing. Hey, man, I get it. But, and I try to get them to see what I have seen. That it leads to no good, that it's bigger than that it's more complicated than that. Because, people want easy answers to complex things, and there aren't any.
Right.
Mythological simplification. And it's just it's really crazy, man, how nuts it is. I mean, there's people, I know for a fact there's people who maybe know which way I lean, and I don't see them at shows. They don't like you no more. They see you differently.
Yeah.
They see something different. It's weird.
That's a shame too. Yeah, because
it's psychological.
You'll
it's
even
strange.
see guys like Kid Rock, and he's the show is headlined. I don't remember the title of the show, but the show is headlined like, to the guns to the right or something. I'm not saying that's the thing, but it's almost like we politicizing the music, and that's the one thing I love about music and art is it has the ability to bring us together, even though we may be on diametrically opposed sides. I do too.
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. I like his music.
I don't agree with everything he says, but I like him.
I don't agree with
music.
I don't agree with everything I say half the time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's
That's the truth.
We got to still be open to that and kind of live in the middle.
My son, I'm really excited for now because I think maybe the one thing I got out of all my education was to help him. And not he doesn't need any help, but I could be like a guide.
Sure.
Learning about the Enlightenment and learning about, all it goes Renaissance, Scientific Revolution, then the Enlightenment.
We're going to have to make this a 2 episodes. We went from music all the way into a history lesson. I love it.
But, and the Renaissance was great to study and all that too, I think helps any art. Renaissance.
Sure.
Italian, but after the Black Death, after that Black Plague changed everything. That's when people really started to wake up and realize maybe there's more to what's going on than what I've been told.
And maybe that's
that Black Death, it didn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took out a third of Europe. And
I know we're not in the same, it's not the same intensity like with COVID or whatever, but having us being locked down and all that stuff, maybe there's I'm always looking for the silver lining. Maybe that's the silver lining as we spread our wings out of this cocoon and kind of start getting back out there. Maybe we're experiencing, I hope so, I'd like to think that way, maybe we're experiencing a little bit of a cultural renaissance where we have to go through it's going to be hard, right? We have to go through some bumps and bruises period, but maybe we come out on the other end of this and we're better people for it, That's my idealistic view that I'd hope, but who knows if that'll be it.
No, I could see how people maybe with that long break where me, like everybody else, you have nothing to do.
Yeah.
When we went from having way too much to do to having nothing to do. And maybe people found themselves a little bit because they had time to sit down and think.
Yes.
Americans particularly, I mean, we're very overworked society. And, I'm not against good old hard labor. I grew up working in my grandfather's store, Cicero's, stocking shelves and taking grocery bags out on the ice in winter and throwing the garbage away and sweeping the floor and mopping the floor. What scares me about like the workplace is bosses and your fellow workers. I mean, it's bad out there.
Yeah.
A lot of bullying.
Yeah.
A lot of people who know they have position of power will take advantage of and treat people bad. I just don't get in any of that, man. Like I won't deal with that. I won't. I'd rather just, just try it. What people go through pains me. What I hear.
Sure. What
I see people go through and what they do just to maintain what used to be fairly easy.
Yeah.
Going back, like I remember, we were growing up. Remember, like our parents would complain the gas bill was $80.
Yeah.
And now it's $300.
Yeah.
And I remember gas forever was 99 cents a gallon.
Sure.
And I remember we used to just cruise. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Go out to 88, the causeway and all around and have fun, joke, and listen to music. Kids can't do that. It costs $20 to do that now.
Yeah. Even the grocery store.
Well, it's outrageous, man. I mean, it's crazy. People are hit so many times a day. They're hit. They're hit at the pump. They're hit at the food. They're hit, but people, they are. I think they are really stressed out. And I see that in me. I'm someone who's never really lived in that lifestyle. Like, I've never made a mortgage payment. I've never really cut grass. I don't know what that's like, Yeah. But I feel for a lot of people. And, when you see how much they pay just to exist, you see why they're maybe a little angry.
Sure.
They're paying property tax. They're paying homeowners insurance. They're paying car insurance. They're paying medical insurance. They're paying their utilities, everything. Their mortgage, blah, blah, blah. And it's crazy. How much money? I have friends tell me they have to make like $1,500 a month just to exist without even getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
Just to maintain in case their house burns down or an accident.
Sure.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's a lot of money to just be.
In the first 10 years of a mortgage, you're just paying the interest to the bank. I mean, my God, it's just...
When you're stressed out and you're not feeling that the world is treating you fair and that you need a release, you can go see Damian Knapp.
That's why,
out there at any of these places, and a lot of times there's no cover charge.
Never.
Right? You could get a beer and listen to the blue-collar working bluesman rock it, either with Mystic Highway or the Damian Knapp Trio or any of these different acts, man.
That's why I do it.
That's cool.
I swear, when I play local, one of the things I look forward to are seeing some old faces. But I don't see them. Some of my friends that are out there that have followed me at one time who I haven't seen in like 5 years, come out and say hello.
I'm guilty of it.
Come on,
I'm guilty
hello.
of it. Anybody that's listening out there, let's get out there and see Damian this summer, man, because he's laying some great tracks down. And he's got some original music that I'm really looking forward to listening to. Your dad's stuff and that re-release. Yeah. And I have a
Machine Gun Mary stuff.
No, the Machine Gun Mary stuff, man. Yeah, you got to bring that blow-up doll back out of retirement, though. I got to see some of that shit. When you talk about Marilyn Manson, that's kind of, I forgot, that's kind of what that act reminded me of, was Marilyn Manson stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good time with it. We did. We had a really good time. And I realize now that music that we were playing was about to become very popular.
Yeah. And it did.
I even looked it up on Wikipedia, and I forget the exact term that they called it, but there's a whole musical genre that became famous that we were doing. And it's kind of like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's why I tell young people, don't wait. Send it out right now.
You're living in the now, in the present.
Yes, there is no tomorrow.
Yep.
Just do it.
Well, listen, folks, check out DamianKnappMusic.com, DamianKnapp music.com for shows, for music, and for updates. And I appreciate you coming on today, man. I really had a great time catching up. And I'm so impressed, even more so than what I was viewing on the outside after this conversation, the breadth and wealth of knowledge and the wisdom that you've been able to share today, man. It's like, it's really cool. It's a cool experience because I've known you for 25, 30 years, and to see that growth and understanding.
Thank you for having me and giving me a place to come and talk and kind of get a sense of where I've been, what I'm doing right now, and where I hope to go. And I just want to give a shout out to my son, Sean Knapp, who I named after John Lennon, because Sean's the Irish name for John. That's why he named his son Sean.
Cool.
So, but not music. No, for Sean. No.
I'm gonna have to have you back on because I love to dive into that conversation. My wife said the other day, my son's been in a couple commercials recently, and he edits video up here. I have him up here. He works a little bit sometimes. He's 10.
That's okay. Hey, no. That's not the music business.
Well, but
it's
it's
different.
It's the same. It's that artist thing,
The
like
music business is particularly bad.
Oh, for certain.
Yeah.
But any kind of art form, a lot of times, like it's a difficult. I'm making videos here to make a buck. I'm a filmmaker, right? I'm a writer, and to do my art, it's a difficult thing. It's a lot easier to get hired to do somebody else's advertising art, and I've been fortunate to make a buck. My wife said the other day, she goes, let's guide him into being a doctor or this or that, and he's got great potential. He's a great student or whatever. And I said, love him to do whatever he wants to do that makes him happy.
Yeah.
And if he comes to me and says, Dad, I want to be an actor, after I get done crying in the bathroom, I'm going to help him to do whatever he wants.
Acting's not bad right now because
it's all that art form though, man. It's tough.
I know, but Netflix and there's so many more roles now than we were growing up. You had to get into movies.
Yeah,
now there's 1,000.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad time for actors.
Watered
Where it was
down,
a bad
though,
time
too,
for musicians. It wasn't necessarily the worst era for actors. I've heard that.
Yeah.
People have told me that in the business.
We'll see. Hopefully our sons do something to change the world, and that whole generation can kind of turn it around for us old farts, the guys that are getting older, man, because I want to keep going. I want to take this vehicle as far as I can go to see what the future holds, what my son's life will be, and how we morph out of hopefully this idea of being right all the time to showing more love to one another,
Yeah, I like that saying. If it's between being right or nice, choose nice. I fail at that, and we all do.
Yeah.
And
That's okay. We're not perfect.
No, I like the Ben Franklin's idea of life is like a constant learning and getting better at whatever it is and improving yourself. A work in progress, he called.
Work in progress.
That's how I am too. But I know there's some people who know me personally right now. I'd be like, yeah, between being nice or right. Yeah, look, you hypocrite on the show. No, I'll admit that I fail at that, and it's a struggle. If it's between being nice or kind, the best thing to do is just to be kind. You don't always have to be right.
But you show your wisdom by acknowledging your failure, and you learn through I'm coaching a lot of soccer now. I always tell the kids, hey, we're either winning or we're learning. We're not losing. We're losing. You might lose the game, but you learn from it,
right.
So you're doing the same thing. Yeah. Want to take us out with another song?
Yeah.
Damian Knapp, ladies and gentlemen. Until the next time on the prod, be kind to one another and stay electrified.
I'll do a tune. One of the earlier tunes I wrote. It's called "A Great White Tongan Love God." It's about my dad when he lived in Hawaii. He just had a birthday a few days ago, March 25th. So we'll do it for him.
Happy birthday, Pete Knapp.
He lives in a jungle with 2 killer dogs. Stay up all night and guard his farm. He fights with the neighbors before he goes to the beach, wearing nothing but a sarong. I said, hey, y'all, you wouldn't believe what I saw. A great white Tongan love gun. Believe what I saw. A great white Tongan love gun. Something like that.
Appreciate you coming on the show.
I forget my own
man.
songs.
That's all right,
man.
man.
Jesus.
Forget my own name sometimes. Thanks for playing with us, Damian. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.